Progressive YouTube superstar and friend of the show, Brian Tyler Cohen, once again publicly humiliated Trump sympathizer Piers Morgan, as well as two MAGA sidekicks, on his own show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, in their most recent heated Trump debate. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have one long clip here that as part of like a 1.5 hour conversation on Piers Morgan Uncensored. But the topic turned to pardons, President Biden's pardon of Hunter Biden, potential preemptive pardons of Liz Cheney, Benny Thompson, and members of the House January 6th Select Committee, whether or not Donald Trump will pardon J6 defendants, and whether or not he will seek political retribution against his opponents like Liz Cheney. And during the course of the conversation, the hypocrisy and the lack of command of the facts by Morgan and his two MAGA sidekicks were on full display. So we're going to play this clip and unpack it together.
Into the whole COVID vaccine debate. But what I would say, Brian, it does seem extraordinary to me. I mean, my issue with Joe Biden pardoning his son is not that as a father, I don't understand why he wants to stop his son going to prison. It was the blatant lying by him and Karine Jean-Pierre from the White House podium, which I thought was so damaging to his legacy and to the reputation of his administration. To do that from the podium in such a brazen and ongoing manner for months on end, and then to just do it anyway. But this development now, where they're almost second guessing that, as the Republicans were saying, I think a lot of sympathy for this, that they're saying, look, clearly the justice system was weaponized against Trump. They tried everything to put him in jail, and a lot of the people that work for him. So now Trump is suggesting that maybe we return the favor, as of course he was going to. Now, he did say, I don't want retribution. I think the best revenge is success, which is an old Frank Sinatra line, which I use in a column. I suspect that's where he got it. But I think that would be a very good strategy. Don't look back, look forward. However, the fact that Biden may be moving to give people blanket immunity against any possible crimes they committed for many years, I think is outrageous, don't you?
So before Brian responds, a couple of things. There were just some false premises there. So Piers wants you to believe that Donald Trump is only considering going after his political opponents after President Biden pardoned his son Hunter. That's not true. Donald Trump has publicly campaigned on jailing his political opponents every time he's run for president. He did it in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. He did it in 2020 as the sitting president, threatening to prosecute President Obama, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and he did it in 2024. So in point of fact, Donald Trump is not reacting to anything. He started this. He is the only person to explicitly campaign on jailing his political opponents. President Biden, Kamala Harris, they have not done that. So again, Piers Morgan is lying to you when he's like, no, Donald Trump was minding his own business. But now that they've investigated him and they're pardoning family members of the Bidens, now it's predictable that Donald Trump would threaten to do this. No. You're putting the cart before the horse. Trump actually started this, number one. Number two, it is not known if President Biden will preemptively pardon the January 6th committee members. It's entirely possible that he won't do it, that he won't make the offer. And if he does make the offer, they'll categorically refuse to do it. But also, none of this is a surprise. He seems to be thinking Democrats should have seen this coming. Well, we did see this coming. That's precisely why President Biden's senior staff are contemplating this decision as we speak.
Piers, I think that if you're not looking at it in the context of why it's being done, then you're just ignoring reality here. The reason that Biden has to consider preemptive pardons for people like Adam Schiff and Liz Cheney is because Donald Trump is storming into office by assembling a Justice Department and folks around him in the legal community who have promised to enact Donald Trump's retribution.
But what if they've committed crimes?
He's doing it.
What
Let's
if
not
they've
pretend that
committed
it's
crimes?
happening in a vacuum here.
Yeah, but Brian, what if they've committed crimes, genuinely, like Hunter?
Piers, by your own logic, what if Donald Trump committed crime? See, this is the thing with Piers. This is the hypocrisy on full display. And this is the difference between us. If people committed crimes, including Democrats, then Democrats should be investigated. The issue that people are having with this isn't that Trump could potentially investigate Democrats. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. President Biden's Justice Department investigated and prosecuted Democrats, including Senator Bob Menendez, a Democrat, Congressman Henry Cuellar, a Democrat, Hunter Biden, the Democratic president's own son, his only surviving son, and President Biden himself was under investigation by a Biden DOJ-appointed special counsel. There's nothing inherently wrong with Democrats investigating Democrats, Republicans investigating Democrats, Democrats investigating Republicans, although Piers, I imagine, would clutch his pearls about that. No, Republicans can investigate Democrats, but Democrats can't investigate Republicans. No, Piers, it's got to go both ways. Republicans can investigate Republicans. Republicans can investigate Democrats. Democrats can investigate Republicans. Democrats can investigate Democrats. The issue is explicitly campaigning on pursuing these people as an act of political retribution. That's what makes this sick. That's what makes this off-putting. That's what makes this unethical. But let's take your argument, Piers. What if they committed crimes? Okay, well, what if Donald Trump committed crimes? By your logic, that justifies any Democrat not only investigating Donald Trump, which you take issue with, but also explicitly campaigning on it. Like, according to Piers' own logic, what if so-and-so committed crimes? Then Vice President Harris was perfectly entitled to not just investigate Donald Trump if she won the election. She should have campaigned, hey, we're going to go after this guy. We're going to investigate him. When in fact, she didn't say that. Piers wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to say that Democrats can't investigate people. They can't threaten to investigate people. But Republicans like Trump can not only investigate people, they can threaten to investigate whoever the hell they want. See how the logic goes ass backwards? And it's just further proof of Piers once again grading Republicans on a curve, because if he holds them to the same standard, he will always lose the debate.
What if they have committed crimes?
If Adam Schiff has committed crimes,
Yeah.
he hasn't. There's no suggestion that he has.
How do you know?
Because how do you know that he has? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Why pardon him?
Why pardon him is because
why
Donald
pardon him
Trump
if he hasn't
will
committed
usher
crimes?
in, because Donald Trump's FBI director is coming into office with an enemies list. Why wouldn't you?
Oh, you're saying
Why
they're
wouldn't
going to manufacture crimes against Schiff? Is that what you're saying?
Again, this is where the MAGA sidekicks are so stupid and hypocritical. By that logic, then Democrats are 100% justified in going after Republicans, not just in theory, but also explicitly. These two people, these three people rather, because I'm including the PBD sidekick, by that definition, they should say, you know what? Democrats have every goddamn right to prosecute Donald Trump, to prosecute Republicans. They can be, as a matter of fact, explicit about it, because if Donald Trump and Republicans didn't commit crimes, they have nothing to worry about, and there's no reason for anybody to pardon anybody. They are never consistent in their logic. They always grade the GOP and MAGA on a curve.
You're saying that they're going to manufacture crimes against Schiff? Does that even make sense to you?
If there were any crimes,
does that even make sense to you?
If there were any crimes against Adam Schiff, then they would have brought them up at any point unto this point, but they haven't. And so
then
Donald
why
Trump
pardon
knows
him?
that
Then why
because-
pardon him?
Yeah.
Then why pardon him? Makes no sense. Your logic is totally flawed here. Makes no sense.
No, it's not. It's not flawed at all. The reason that you would do preemptive pardons, and again, we don't know if the preemptive pardons are going to be implemented at all. We don't know if Biden's going to make the offer. We don't know if the people to whom he makes the offer will accept. But the idea is to prevent a fishing expedition. It's to prevent there to be some sort of predicate for an investigation which could chill and be financially costly for the targets of the investigation, could be reputationally damaging. This idea that you only need fear investigation if you committed a legitimate crime is just simply not true. Again, we have examples. It's so funny. We have to go through this all the time. There are 10 examples at least of Trump rivals, people that Donald Trump didn't like when he was president, who were subject of investigation. You have James Comey, who was investigated by Trump's administration. You had Andrew McCabe, former deputy FBI director, investigated by Trump's administration. Peter Strzok, former FBI agent involved in the Mueller investigation. You have John Kerry, former Secretary of State under President Obama. He was also investigated. Hillary Clinton was investigated by the Justice Department, or rather by Trump's administration. So the fact that prosecutions didn't necessarily follow, and the fact that these people weren't jailed, doesn't take away from the fact that Trump attempted to do so. And again, if the shoe was on the other foot, these same people who are saying it's no big deal would be celebrating. They would be celebrating, or rather, if the shoe was on the other foot, they would be furious that the Biden administration will go after Republicans. But the idea is to prevent a fishing expedition. That's the point. And again, we don't know if these pardons will be issued.
It's not flawed.
I
the
can
reason
answer
to
that
pardon
question.
him.
Okay, Julie, let me bring in Julie. If you can answer it, answer it.
I can answer that question because Donald Trump went and meet the press yesterday and said point blank that he thinks that the January 6th committee committed crimes. What crimes?
did.
I don't know. Maybe doing their due diligence. Stop. Maybe doing their due diligence oversight.
we have got
And as
that clip.
members of
Let's play that. I'll
Congress,
tell you
they
what.
have. They have.
Let's
wait,
play that.
stop.
Julie, hang on.
They have immunity.
Hang on, Julie. I want to play the clip.
So
we
the point here. Yes.
Let me play the clip again so we know exactly what you're talking about. We played it early. We'll play it again.
This was a committee, a big deal. They lied. And what did they do? They deleted and destroyed a whole year and a half worth of testimony. Do you know that I can't get I think those people committed a major crime.
Sir.
And Cheney was behind it.
Well-
and so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee.
We're going to.
For what they did,
Yeah.
honestly, they should go to jail.
Yeah.
So
So,
what
I mean,
the hell
look.
is he talking about? That so there's no. So let's just preface this. None of that is true. None of that is true.
How do you know
Just
out of
because he
interest?
says it doesn't make it true.
How do you know? How do you know?
I know? Because
How do you know?
I would assume that because his
Assumptions
lawyers
are a very
would have
dangerous
filed a
thing when it
motion.
comes to
His
fact gathering.
Are you-
I mean,
You know what's funny? So it's true, but Piers Morgan, it is true that assumptions are dangerous when it comes to fact gathering. But Piers Morgan, as we discussed in a previous video, when you said that the Justice Department was weaponized against President Biden, and when against Donald Trump by President Biden, and when Destiny demanded proof of Piers Morgan says, I don't have to prove it. So he just makes an assumption, makes a bold positive claim that he can't substantiate, but then demands the highest level of proof from his pro-liberal, pro-progressive. Yes, again, you see the double standards in real time.
answer
Are
your
you
question.
saying that Donald
His
Trump's
lawyers
Justice
would have
Department is
filed-
going to manufacture evidence of crimes, or
I
aren't
am
you?
sa-
Because if
can
they're
I
not,
answer
you
the
have
question,
no
or do you wanna
reason
keep
to pardon
interrupting
these
me?
people.
Do you
well,
want-
you're
do
not
you
really
want me to
answering the
keep talking?
question. You're going on a
Okay.
diatribe.
Well, you're not letting me answer. You're not letting me answer the question.
Answer, but be
Do I
concise.
believe
I
that
actually
he
want to
did-
hear it.
Okay. Well, actually, thank you so much for telling me how to speak. I
You're welcome.
think that Donald Trump just sent a very big message to Pam Bondi as to what he expects. And he expects her to start and to Kash Patel to start investigating these people. Whether they get indicted or not, it doesn't matter. It is expensive, it is consuming, and it becomes a huge pain in the you-know-what to be investigated by the federal authorities. And that is the message that he is sending.
Like the Russian collusion.
He knows full well that there is nothing that's been destroyed, because had it been destroyed, his lawyers would have filed a motion.
Yeah, but Julie,
and
I
they
would say
never
to you,
did throughout
but
all of
Julie,
this.
100 exactly. So Donald Trump has been peddling this lie that the January 6th Select Committee broke some sort of laws and destroyed all the evidence against Trump in their investigations of him when Democrats had power. There's no evidence of that claim whatsoever. And again, if there was evidence of that claim, then that would be a predicate for Donald Trump to do quite a bit in terms of lawsuits, and he hasn't done so, right? But again, this idea that, okay, well, the only way you need fear investigation by the authorities is if you actually committed a crime. It's just simply not true. It may very well be that they investigate, that they can't find something to prosecute on, but the legal expense involved, the personal stress involved, the financial stress involved, the time taken away, that if you have to, be in court for pretrial motions or for, negotiating with attorneys, depositions and things like that, these things are incredibly chilling and retributive in nature. Otherwise, if that weren't the case, that were not the case, then Piers Morgan and his two MAGA sidekicks would have said, yeah, there's no issue with Democrats going after Republicans, including Trump, because if they didn't commit crimes, they need not fear. But the fact that they don't take that position, the fact that they're like, oh, shit, no, Democrats should never go after Republicans or Donald Trump. It's wrong. You shouldn't do that. That's proof that they recognize that politically motivated prosecutions, which, by the way, I don't believe that that's what happened to Trump, but they recognize in theory the dangers posed by politically motivated prosecutions, even if the subject of those prosecutions didn't commit crimes. See, their hypocrisy betrays their insecurity.
They were not in a
Julie, hang
position where
hang
they
on.
could investigate
hang on.
this. They were not in a position to do that.
I would say to Julie, look, when you
weren't?
weaponize the justice system of the United States of America against a president of the United States, first ever criminal court case we've ever seen involving a president, and it's about shuffling some paperwork over an alleged one-night stand he denies with a porn star 18 years ago. When you render the justice system to be such a politically motivated farce, and most Americans actually thought that, when you do that as an administration, when you allow that to happen, you open up a whole can of worms. You've done it first. You've gone after this guy. You've tried everything you could, however petty, trivial, ridiculous,
Now
to try
you
and
reap
put him
the
in jail.
whirlwind.
And when it doesn't work and it actually
All right,
backfires and it fuels him and he ends
So
up
that's
winning
not,
big.
So you're talking about a state. So you're talking
Yeah,
about
Piers,
a.
that's
By
the
the way,
New York
Piers, you're talking
case.
about a state. You're talking about a state charge that has nothing to do with Joe Biden. If you're talking about the federal
I'm
investigation,
talking about Democrat-motivated prosecutors who were doing their master's.
Well, Piers, if he broke the law, what's he have to worry about, Piers? See how easy, effortless it is to flip their own logic against them. The very thing that Piers said earlier, listen, these Democrats need not fear unless they committed crimes. Then why do you care what the motivations of Democrats prosecuting Trump are? it doesn't matter what the motivations are. If he didn't commit any crimes, he need not fear. Obviously, it's not how that works, but he grades Trump on a curve. It's a different set of standards. He contradicts himself in a span of 5 minutes. It is stunning.
Lead, right?
I don't know who you're talking about. If you're talking about the Justice Department, over which Donald Trump will have authority by appointing an attorney general, I am telling you that what the Justice Department under Joe Biden was investigating is the fact that Donald Trump refused to return classified information that he stored in his bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. It is the fact that he incited a violent riot that effectively harmed and hurt our transfer of power for the first time in our nation's history.
Well, you're now
So from
convicting
that
him of all these
perspective,
crimes, which he's not being convicted of.
I'm not convicted.
None of them.
I'm
The
not
only thing he's
convicting
being
him of anything
convicted
because
of is
a jury
shuffling
has not
paperwork
convicted him.
with a porn star. And let me
But that's-
rephrase.
but that's-
Hang on. Wait, let me rephrase what I was saying. I'm talking about weaponizing the justice system. Let's make it a more all-encompassing thing, where you have Democrat slanted prosecutors who just want to jail Trump, even if it's down for shuffling paperwork over a porn star. To me, it was utterly ridiculous, that case. And the idea that you then criminally
I
convict...
don't disagree with that.
Well,
that
right.
case.
So my
I don't
point is,
disagree with
well,
that-
I don't think
with that
anyone
case.
disagrees with it, really. So here's my point: is that as a Democrat, when you look at this, what's happening now, why wouldn't Trump do this? I mean, he's perfectly entitled to return the favor, isn't he?
What? Okay, that's fine. We'll grant that. Well, let's workshop this. Let's grant the false premise that Trump was politically prosecuted. Let's grant it. Then let's grant the premise suggested by Piers that he's entitled for retribution. Does that mean when the next Democrat is elected president that they're entitled to continue to hit back? Is that what you're saying? What's interesting is Piers believes that what happened against Trump was a miscarriage of justice. Now, I disagree. I think that it was totally deserved, the prosecutions against him, even if the New York case was by far the weakest. But if that's the case, what's the issue? If he's trying to have his cake and eat it too, he's trying to hold both sides to different standards. On the notion of Kash Patel, Trump's FBI nominee, publicly expressing desire to prosecute members of the media, Donald Trump's political opponents, Piers Morgan doesn't have a damn thing to say. But I want you to imagine if Kamala Harris had won the election and her attorney general nominee said what Kash Patel said about Democrats, and her nominee said about Republicans, would Piers Morgan be upset? Yes. The fact of the matter is, President Biden's Justice Department was not weaponized against Donald Trump. The fact of the matter is that they tried to avoid prosecuting him. Merrick Garland dragged his feet for a year. The National Archives and the FBI tried to get the national defense documents back in the other federal case against Trump. They also begged Trump for a year to just return the damn documents. Return the documents, you won't get prosecuted. And the documents that he did return, he wasn't prosecuted for. It was the shit he tried to hide. And then he lied to the Justice Department. He lied to the National Archives. He lied to the FBI. And so it eventually caused them to act. But they bent over backwards to avoid this fight with Trump. Also point out that Biden's Justice Department has prosecuted elected Democrats and President Biden's only living son, and President Biden himself was investigated. So there's no evidence of a weaponized Justice Department. And even if it were, by Piers' own logic, who cares? These Republicans need not fear unless they committed crimes. Unless, of course, you either concede that Trump has committed crimes and therefore he should fear and you just don't want him to be punished or held accountable for those crimes, or you genuinely believe that Trump is innocent and the Republicans are innocent, in which case, if you don't want the Justice Department or if you take issue with the Justice Department investigating these innocent Republicans, then you recognize that there's a serious danger, that there's a serious inconvenience posed by the Justice Department investigating anyone, including innocent people. In which case, your argument that these Democrats need not fear a potential investigation by Donald Trump is totally moot. The fact of the matter is, you can be innocent of a crime, and the people, the authorities investigating you can still cause enormous legal, emotional, psychological, and temporal time expense. These things aren't enjoyable. They're not frivolous. They're not minor issues. It's a big freaking deal when the Federal Bureau of Investigation launches an investigation into you. It's a big deal. Republican, Democrat, guilty or innocent, it's a big deal. And they can recognize that. They can empathize with Republicans in that situation, but not Democrats. And so for me, that's one thing where I'll say this about Vinny, the PBD Patrick Bet-David sidekick. At least he's more open about it. He's still deluded and still has a poor command of the facts. But he made it clear during this conversation that it is about retribution, that, it's tit for tat. At least he's open about it. He's not pretending that, this isn't a big deal. It is a big deal. And what Piers is doing, on the other hand, is pretending it's a big deal when it's Republicans, and then pretending it's not when it's Democrats. No consistency whatsoever. Pretty humiliating stuff from Piers Morgan, well-known Trump sympathizer. Shameless. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.